It's official, FIA fired Michael Masi. The last season of F1 ended in a controversial way, but what exactly happened, who was at fault, and how will F1 react to avoid such misconceptions and controversial actions for the years to come? Last year was captivating, with a battle both on track and out of it. Red Bull, for the first time, gave Max Verstappen a car which could compete for the F1 championship. Max rose to the occasion and was involved in a huge fight with the title holder Lewis Hamilton. This fight resulted to many great battles on track, but even more moments of controversy out of it. From the start of the season, both teams were trying to extend a rulebook and benefit from the grey areas in it while still being legal. Max and Lewis were searching for the absolute track limit and the tiniest of gaps to achieve an overtake on each other. We saw these incredible fights in Bahrain, Silverstone, and many more race circuits. But where the battle really heated up was at the last stretch of the championship, where Lewis needed a win in every race to close the gap to Verstappen in the drivers' standings. For the last couple of races, the racing from both drivers wasn't that clean, with the FIA and Michael Masi left with the responsibility of keeping the fights as clean as possible. But did they deliver? Not exactly, as F1 witnessed some of the most chaotic fights for the first position, with both of the frontrunners not respecting the rules completely and making each other's lives as hard as possible. Coming to the last race, the two drivers were equal on points, so the last race was going to be a title decider. As you can imagine, the whole weekend was as intense as it could be, with both teams getting ready for two fights, one on the track and one on the communications with the F1 racer director Michael Masi. Michael spoke to both teams before the race and warned them that they could even disqualify their drivers if the battle ends up being too dirty. And actually, the race was quite uneventful until the last couple of laps, as Hamilton had a quite comfortable lead over Max, with Red Bull giving it everything strategy-wise as they left Sergio Perez out on track with used tyres to try and hold Hamilton behind him for Max to catch up. Despite Checo doing his job, Lewis created a lead over Max again. So Red Bull tried a desperate move by calling Max to the pits for a fresh set of tyres to give him the chance for a final charge to catch up to Hamilton. But still, Hamilton was going to win the race until the last 6 laps. Coming on the last 6 laps, Nicholas Latifi lost control of his car, ending up on the wall at turn 14. This was the cause for a late safety car, which was the reason for the most exciting and controversial final laps in F1 history. During the safety car, Mercedes decided not to call Hamilton in the pits for a fresh set of tyres, so he stayed out on the tracks for an extra 40 laps with old tyres, while Verstappen was behind him with a fresh set. The whole controversy started because of the lapped cars that were between Lewis and Max, and Red Bull, of course, wanted the race to be restarted without any distractions between them, exactly opposite to Mercedes' demand. So Masi had the nightmare job to basically decide whether those cars are allowed to overtake the safety car or not. After conversation with both teams, he decided to allow only those cars to overtake the safety cars, as there was not enough time for all the lapped cars to do so. That triggered a huge reaction from the Mercedes garage, with Toto Wolff left fuming. So finally, after all that, the race was restarted and Max took his chances and made his move in turn 5 successfully, and after a good defense on Lewis for the rest of the lap, took the win and won his first World Drivers' Championship. After this event, many questions were asked about the legality and fairness of Masi's decision. FIA started researching every aspect of this event, with Mercedes and Lewis pushing them to investigate it thoroughly and even appeal on the case of chasing a change in the result of the race. Although their appeal didn't achieve anything, with Lewis threatening to retire from F1 because of this event, while still having a contract with Mercedes. All of this controversy left FIA wondering who was at fault and how they can make sure such things won't happen again, hurting the integrity of the sport. After a thorough investigation on every aspect of the controversial last lap of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, F1 decided to introduce some big changes. First of all, on Thursday, 17th of February 2022, the new FIA president Mohammed Ben Sulayem confirmed that Masi had been removed from the position and replaced by an overhauled system of controlling and officiating F1 races. Michael Masi was called to replace Charlie Whiting as the F1 race director after his sudden death before the 2019 Australian Grand Prix. Several of Masi's decisions as race director were subject to scrutiny from drivers, teams, and press. At the 2020 Turkish Grand Prix qualifiers, Q2 session cars were sent out on the track. Masi was required to defend the red flag procedures used during the 2021 Azerbaijan Grand Prix and was criticized for his decision at the 2021 Belgian Grand Prix, including running qualifying in dangerous conditions and running for the race behind the safety car for 3 laps, allegedly to ensure points were awarded, and negotiating with teams during the race to change positions in Saudi Arabia. The role of race director will be filled by 2 alternating people. Nils Vidic, current DTM race director, and Eduardo Freitas, current race director of the World Endurance Championship, will take turns in filling the role. They will both be assisted by Herbie Blush, 73, who used to work in a similar role under former race director Charlie Whiting, but retired in 2016. Ben Sulayem also announced that race incidents checking will be assisted by an independent structure out of the FIA's headquarters. This structure will be most likely located in Geneva and will have a role similar to this of VAR in football. Talking to an online press conference that FIA published, he confirmed that his plan had been approved by the F1 CEO Stefano Domenicali and the team's bosses in F1's committee meeting in London this Monday. Describing the changes, Ben Sulayem said that the racing director will be assisted by a virtual race control room, just like the VAR in football. Lastly, he confirmed that the new race managing team will be up and running for the first time in next week's Barcelona winter testing. This week, F1 also announced some changes to fill up some grey areas in the F1 rulebook regarding how points are awarded should a Grand Prix not complete its intended race distance and the pole position title holder in sprint race weekends. At the Belgian Grand Prix, Red Bull's Max Verstappen was declared the winner of the race, which ran to 2 laps behind the safety car as heavy rain made green flag racing impossible. Verstappen and the rest of the top 10 were awarded half points. On Monday, after a meeting in London, the F1 Commission approved proposed updates to the sporting regulations regarding how points will be distributed when the race distance is not completed. No points will be awarded unless a minimum of 2 laps have been completed by the leader without a safety car or virtual safety car intervention. If the leader has completed more than 2 laps but less than 25% of the scheduled race distance, the winner will be awarded 6 points, while second will be awarded 4 points, third 3 points, fourth 2 points, and fifth 1 point. Should the leader have completed 25% but less than 50% of the scheduled race distance, points will be rewarded to the top 9 as follows. First, 13 points. Second, 10 points. Third, 8 points. Should the leader complete 50% but less than 75% of the scheduled race distance, points will be awarded to the top 10 as follows. First, 19 points. Second, 14 points. Third, 12 points. Lastly, if the leader completes more than the 75% threshold, full points will be awarded to the top 10 drivers. Lastly, regarding sprint race weekends, the pole position title will go to the driver who finishes first on the Friday's qualifying sessions and not to the winner of the sprint race, which was a point of argument last year when F1 introduced sprint races for the first time. It's actually not the first time F1 has seen such controversial events, but it was about time the FIA took action over these incidents. Throughout the last 15 years, many incidents happened that required action and rule changes, so they won't happen again. FIA, most of the times, didn't change the way they approach such incidents, with F1 fans arguing over similar events every single season. The need for an independent race control was always there, but F1 ignored it till today. F1 fans have insisted for many years that the same team of people should manage every incident throughout the whole seasons so the actions are similar and fair. F1 ignored them, and we kept on seeing different penalties for similar incidents, which is quite unfair for everyone, hurting the integrity of the sport multiple times. This year's Abu Dhabi Grand Prix was the point where F1 understood this need to change. But was firing Michael Masi the right thing to do in this situation? In my humble opinion, it wasn't, because Michael was just the tip of the iceberg. The FIA left many grey areas in the rulebook, and everyone in Masi's position wouldn't know what to do. This decision was doomed to be wrong because actually everything he could decide to do was just going to be illegal and criticized for not being fair. One contentious point with Masi's handling of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix was how he appeared overwhelmed and inundated with messages from Mercedes and Red Bull. To prove my point, several drivers have voiced their support of Masi because the FIA's decision was made public. Last week, at the launch of Aston Martin's new car, four-time world champion Sebastian Vettel said he felt Masi should keep his job and should not be judged on the basis of one decision. McLaren's Daniel Ricciardo said he felt Masi should keep his job, but added that his fellow Australian probably needed help in the role to do it properly. So to sum up, what should have been changed is the way the FIA manage such incidents and the tools that the F1 race director should have in hand and not the race director himself. If you liked the video, subscribe to our channel to stay updated with the latest F1 news and watch more F1-related content. Also, feel free to drop a comment and give us your opinion about this topic.